Welcome to Bryer CD Showcase. I am Bryer and today we are doing part 3 of my updated CD collection series. Now, funny enough, I didn't really intend to do it tonight because earlier it was so hot, but it kind of cooled down a lot this evening, so I thought, you know, why not? I'm in the mood, let's just go for it. So we've shifted down, so we're now focusing on this half of the shelf. So we're going to be starting here, going down, then we go across, and then we come up here, and then go down. Again, this, like I mentioned in part 1, my system is very convoluted, but you know, it makes sense to me. That's all that matters. So without further ado, let's do it. Don't forget to leave a like on the video, and also comment below what is your favorite CD that you saw in this particular collection. So let's do it. So we were picking up from Guns N' Roses. We left off on Appetite for Destruction, so now we're still in Guns N' Roses. So first up we have Use Your Illusion 1, and while we're here, Use Your Illusion 2. Obviously I think the first number 1 is obviously the better one of the two. That's just me. Then the last I have of Guns N' Roses is this Graze Hits. This is actually the earliest CD I have in my collection. This is back when my mom used to buy me CDs, so thank you, Mom. So now we move to H. So first up we have my only Steve Hackett solo album. So I believe this is his third, I think. I could be wrong, but yeah, I like this one. It's been a bit since I've heard it, so I probably need to re-listen to it. But again, when I first heard it, I enjoyed this quite a bit. So again, in the comments below, let me know if there's other albums I should check out. I know he has some other very well-known albums. So again, keep putting those in the comments, and I will put them on lists, and I will check them out at some point. There's just so much music out there to fucking look into. So little time. Well, I'm still young. So anyhow, let's keep moving. So this is another compilation. So we have the very best of Hall & Oates. I dig them. A lot of great songs. After that, we have Herbie Hancock next with Future Shock. So this one is an interesting one. So I talked about this in the CD haul video, but this is him kind of experimenting with like looping and all this stuff, and this is actually considered the groundwork for what hip hop would do later on. This is like 83, so definitely before when hip hop was starting to become a big thing. So very interesting stuff. I just wanted it because I want to have some Herbie Hancock in my collection. This is probably not a good starter for him, but you know, again, in the comments below, let me know some other albums that's worth looking into. There we go. So now we move on to Heart. We have Dreamboat Annie. Great album. Then we have Little Queen. Has Barracuda on it. Then we take a giant leap forward to the 80s. So we have the self-titled album. I mean, I like their 80s albums. I kind of grew up listening to it, so I have a soft spot for it. I know some people, and even the band themselves for that matter, aren't really fond of this period, but you know, they did some great songs. So we have Bad Animals. Of course, it has Alone on it. Great song. Okay, my only Jimi Hendrix album. We have Electric Ladyland. I definitely need to get the other two at some point, but I got this one because there's a lot of songs on here. So it's a good album. I really enjoy it. And then here we have another movie soundtrack. So again, for this particular one, there's no like main person behind it. So like I said, like in Tarzan we had Phil Collins, and then Lion King we had Elton John. This one didn't really have it. This is another Disney movie, by the way. So we have Hercules. So again, great film. Watched it a bunch when I was growing up. Great stuff. Especially, I actually first saw it in 6th grade when we were talking about like Greek gods and all that. And of course we played this movie. Of course this is very inaccurate to the actual tale, but you know, it's Disney. That's something you expect. Okay. This is an interesting one. So the band's called Hiroshima. This is their album East. It's very interesting. It's basically jazz, but has a lot of 80s production to it. I'm not sure how many people even heard of this one. So let me know your thoughts on this album. To me, it's okay. It's interesting, but not something I kind of would go back to on a regular basis. But you know, who knows? Alright, so then we get to one of my favorite female singers, and that is Whitney Houston. Here's her self-titled debut. Great voice. What can be said? What is there that has not been said about her? Of course, we have Whitney, her second album, probably my favorite. Then I have this one. I think this is her fourth one. My Love Is Your Love. And great voice, great songs. Alright, so we switch over to Eyes now. So we have Billy Idol. Probably should have replaced this before filming, but you know, it's whatever. We have Billy Idol, Rebel Yell. It's my only one, like I probably already said, but you know, it's probably still hot, so forgive me if I lose my train of thought. But again, he had some good hits. I dig it. Alright, so far we've had at least one black metal album in all these episodes. That's probably going to change soon, but you know. We have Immortal with their album At the Heart of Winter. Great album. I was really impressed when I heard this one. This is probably my favorite black metal album I've heard so far. Again, very good stuff. It has a lot of thrash elements in it too. And also, again, great album cover. Very cool. So, awesome. Alright, so now we head over to one of my favorite bands of all time, and that's Iron Maiden. I mean, Iron Maiden is the band that got me into heavy music. So, definitely have a bunch of them. I don't have all of them, but you know, at some point I do plan to get every single studio album. And maybe a few live albums, we'll see. So first up, we have the self-titled debut. Very good stuff. I know this particular issue doesn't have one song. I can't remember exactly. I can't remember if it's the US or the UK version, but I know one version they left out a song in here, and that song is escaping me. I'll put text here to let you know what the song I'm talking about. But yeah, this song, this particular issue does not have it. So I guess hopefully it's not a huge loss. I don't think, but it's fine for now. I'm not too crazy. Anyway, so moving on, we have the second album, Killers, which is the last album to have Paul Di'Anno on vocals. Definitely served the band well, but of course, when they get to the third album, you have Bruce Dickinson in the band, and then it's just smooth sailing for them. Number of the Beast, this was my introduction to the band. Great album, fantastic, has my favorite Iron Maiden song, which is Hallowed Be Thy Name. Fantastic stuff. And then they will go to Peace of Mind next. First one with Nico McBrain on drums. Power Slave, probably my favorite one. And this one's also pretty good, Somewhere in Time. And at some point, this one was my favorite, but it's probably my second one now. Seventh Son of the Seventh Son, with this great album cover. I love the color scheme on this one, very cool. Then we have Fear of the Dark next, which is the last one with Bruce Dickinson before he would leave for a little bit. But not for long, because he would come back on this one, which is Brave New World. I mean, as you can tell, I don't have any of the Blaze Bayley albums. Again, I do plan to get them, but I'm not in a rush. So that's fine. It's fine. And I do have another Iron Maiden album, but again, I'm just going to save it for the last episode. Of course, if you look closely, you can probably already tell the one I'm talking about. But anyhow, let's keep moving. So now we're in J's. And first up, we have Jackson, aka Michael Jackson, Off the Wall. Great stuff. This is definitely at the tail end of disco, which you hear a lot on that album. And of course, when you have Michael Jackson, of course you got to have this one, Thriller. I mean, it's the best-selling album of all time, and for good reason. Fantastic songs there. Then he followed it up with Bad, which is also pretty good. And then last one I have is Dangerous. Not as good as the other three, but it has some moments. Alright, so now we go to Jethro Tull. We have Aqua Lung. Then we go to The Thick as a Brick, which is supposed to be a parody of progressive rock, but ironically this became one of the best progressive rock albums ever. Imagine that. Then they followed it up with A Passion Play, which, by the way, this cover just creeped the hell out of me. Still does, actually. But regardless, this is actually an interesting issue I have of this album, because I think most people have a CD copy where it's similar to Thick as a Brick, where it's one song, but they divide it to two halves. For this particular issue, they have it as one song. So the whole 40-minute song on one CD. There's no breaks in between or no nothing. So I might get a replacement, but you know, this will serve for now. Okay, so after that, we're going to Joel, as in Billy Joel. Love me some Billy Joel. Here we have Piano Man. Then we have probably my favorite Billy Joel album, which is The Stranger. Probably one of my, yeah, like I said, probably one of my favorite albums. Okay, so now we're done with this whole part, so now we're going across here. So we have the 52nd Street. Very strong follow-up to The Stranger. Then last one I have is Stormfront. Not as good, but you know, it has, we didn't start the fire on it, so it has that going for it. Alright, so then we go to John, as in Elton John, and I have quite a bit from him. First one I have is the self-titled, I almost said the debut, but the self-titled sophomore album. This is the second album, not the first. I nearly made that mistake. Okay, from here we have Tumbleweed Connection, which has pretty much become one of, if not my all-time favorite. Again, I didn't know any of the songs on this album, but after listening to it, like, it really just like shot up to probably top 3. So great stuff, great stuff. I highly recommend you check this out if you haven't. Then we have Madman Across the Water. Hunky Chateau. Don't Shoot Me, I'm Only the Piano Player. And of course, when you're talking about Elton John, you gotta have this one. I mean, what's there to say? I mean, title says it all. Then we have the follow-up to it, which is Caribou, or Caribou. I think I've heard people say it either way. Pretty good album, not as strong, obviously not as strong as Goodbye Yellow Brick Road for many reasons, but it has some good songs, and probably the most underrated song on here is Ticking. That's a great closing track. Very good character piece. Okay, we have Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy. And I did replace the case on it because before this was very damaged. I don't think I had this when I did my original, but I'm pretty sure at some point I might have shown what it looked like before, because it looked terrible. Actually, I might actually still have some footage of it, so I'll probably put what it looked like before. It was definitely in very poor state. So that's the American Postal Service for you. I know I make that joke, and I know that that's not always the case, but you know, it's become like a running gag at this point, so I might as well roll with it. But again, I'm just joking at the end of the day. Okay, we have The One, which is one of his 90s albums, which is actually pretty good. Again, the last song, which is ironically called The Last Song, is actually a very beautiful song. Definitely a song about the AIDS crisis at the time. Very, very moving. Then, again, I included this in the Elton John camp because he was very involved in the soundtrack, and that is The Lion King. I mean, what's there to say? I mean, Lion King's one of Disney's best films. I wouldn't argue with it. Okay, and this is an interesting one. So this is a CD version of the single, which has the 1997 version of Candle in the Wind, which is, of course, about Princess Diana. So very interesting. I got this at a thrift store, so got this for collecting purposes. Okay, from here we have another soundtrack he was involved in. We have The Road to El Dorado, which is a DreamWorks film movie, and a very good one at that. And on the back, you see there he is on the back. All right, and then we have a Graze Hits. This is classic Graze Hits. I'm pretty sure most people have something like this. So we have 1970 to 2002. Again, this is pretty old. It's starting to show its age at this point. It's kind of dirty, but you know, that just shows how many times I played it. I mean, it's a good starter if you want to get into Elton John. Okay, so now we finally move on. So we go to Janis Joplin with Pearl. This is her last and also her posthumous album because she passed away before this came out. Great stuff on this one. Okay, Journey. Again, another one of my favorite bands. We have their self-titled debut. This is when they were more of a jazz slash hard rock slash jazz fusion slash progressive rock type of band before Steve Perry even joined. You have Greg Rowley on vocals, but you still have Neil Schon on guitar. Very good stuff. I was actually pretty impressed when I heard this because I didn't know anything going into it. But very good stuff. I recommend if you're not a fan of of course, the AOR or arena rock era of them in the late 70s and early 80s. Though I do love that too. Next up, we have Departure. Now, I do own more Journey. You might be able to see it over here, but again, we're saving it for the final part, as I've mentioned many times. So let's keep moving. Okay, we're jumping ahead very far in the future, going up to either 2007 or 2008. But we have Revelation. This is the first album with Arnel Pineda on vocals, and very good impression, I must say. So this has 2 CDs. You have the original album. Then you have the second disc, which is full of re-recordings with Arnel on vocals, with him singing a lot of the classic stuff. Very interesting. But it also comes with a DVD with a concert on it, which is pretty cool. So, yeah, some good stuff included in this. And I don't have the other album that Arnel sang on, which is called Eclipse. I do hope to get that soon, but I do have their latest album, which is Freedom, which is a very good album, very strong, a lot of strong songwriting here. Again, I really enjoyed this one a lot. Then last thing I have a Journey, which is this Graze Hits. A good starter pack. Has 16 songs, not bad. Alright, so now we're done here. So now we're going to talk about these remaining 4, and then we'll call it here for tonight. Okay, next up we're talking about Joy Division. Again, even though they only released 2 albums, they've become another one of my favorite bands of all time. So here we have not their self-titled, but their debut album, which is called Unknown Pleasures. Again, iconic album cover. I mean, so much things to like. I like the production, so unique. Bass playing by Peter Hook is just very cool. It's simple but very effective. And of course, Ian Curtis has great vocals, and also his lyrics are also very captivating as well. So again, great album. Absolutely adore this one. And then we have the follow-up, which is Closer, which of course this was the last album that came out. So yeah, pretty much before the album actually came out, Ian would take his own life, which is very sad. But again, he left behind 2 very classic albums in my opinion. If you're not familiar with them, obviously start with this one because this is a bit more easier to digest than this one, because this one's a bit more out there in terms of production, but it's very much a grower. It took me a bit to actually appreciate it, but great stuff on here as well. So yeah, Joy Division, love them. Put those down here for now. So then, to finish this out, we're going to talk about 2 albums by another one of my favorite bands of all time, and that, of course, is Judas Priest. So first up, we have their debut album, which is Rockarola. Rockarola. Actually, this poster actually came with this, so that's pretty cool. So yeah, this is their debut. And obviously, like most Judas Priest fans know, they haven't really found their sound yet. They're very much in that blues rock vein, and Rob Halford hasn't really found that classic voice that we know him for. He does have his moments, but overall, it's a decent first album. But you know, nothing to write home about. Very much of the time. So yeah, it's decent. I don't mind it. But of course, this is one where the second album pretty much surpassed the debut. You have Sad Wings of Destiny with this very cool cover on here, and you know, the songs just really just like from when they released this and they went to this, they just had a complete glow up, because from here on out they were pretty much found that sound. So you have Victim of Changes, The Ripper, Dreamer, Deceiver, and Just Deceiver, Genocide, Islands of Domination. Just very awesome album. Of course, Rob Halford just screaming his head off on this one, which is amazing. So yeah, great album, and a good album to finish out part 3. So again, thank you very much for watching, if you stuck by it the whole way through. Again, don't forget to leave a like on the video. Don't forget to comment below on your thoughts on anything that I've talked about. And I'll see you in the next episode. So see you later, and goodbye for now.